The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the host and guest and do not reflect the opinions or policies of the station, its owners, or its advertisers. All content should be considered editorial in nature. Listener discretion is advised.
Recorded live from the radio studios of WFAY and WMRV, Androlonis Media presents Cumberland County's smartest hour of talk radio. Welcome back to another edition of the Carolina Cabinet.
Well, everyone, good morning and welcome to the Carolina Cabinet. I'm Peter Pappas. I'll be your host this morning. We're proud to be the only homegrown conservative talk radio show in the region, and we know this is the smartest hour of radio. Our job is to give a voice to the conservatives of Fayetteville, Cumberland County, and beyond. This morning, I welcome my co-host, Mrs. Laura Musler. Welcome.
Hello.
Good morning. And welcoming special guest, Mr. Ted Melkoumov, running for District 1 City Council.
Hello.
Good morning. So we're going to dive into our show. We appreciate you tuning in and spending time with us this morning. Please take a moment to like, share, or follow us on Facebook, and look for us at thecarolinacabinet.com, and you can find links to all of our shows and how to listen on your favorite podcast broadcasters. Don't go far. We'll be right back.
Free thinking, hard-hitting, truth-telling. You're listening to the Carolina Cabinet, Eastern North Carolina's answer to the radical left. Liberal media's blah, blah, blah. Welcome back to local conservative talk radio.
And welcome back. I do love that intro, you know. The liberal media's blah, blah, blah. And in the last week, it's been the liberal media's hate for people that spoke words they didn't agree with, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
So, this is getting to be like a regular thing. This
What's
is
that?
the third show this week we're putting together.
That's true.
I'm
Don't we have another special one?
We are
coming?
working on another special one. Yes, we are.
You
so
just clued me into that, and I
yeah,
had no idea.
I voluntold you. I was like,
Okay.
yeah, Laura will be there. Yeah, she will. So, okay. So far this week we have spoken to State Auditor Dave Bullock. We have spoken to Stefan Ferguson.
Yep.
Is that his name from last night? And I think he also is running for District 1.
Yeah.
Okay, so he is your opponent. Yes.
Me and Stefan, I think, get along pretty well.
And you know what? I have to say, I've seen you guys interact. You're pretty collegial, so keep that up.
Yeah.
You know, no matter what happens, that's pretty important in these local races that we don't get national politics with each other.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, at the end of the day, we got to look at these are the people that are going to be representing us one way or the other, and we need to work with people. So I'm all for that.
Well, we appreciate it. It's very visible. So
good.
It's visible when it does break down too, which is fun to watch. But so Laura, what else have you been up to? Who did you upset this day, yesterday, this week? I don't know what you've been up to. It's been 24 hours since I've seen you, so I don't know how much trouble you could have possibly gotten into.
I shared with you my trouble last night, but it's private. I don't expose internal disputes.
And I just told you I've just been angry the last 5 days. And
I was
you
yesterday
noticed
morning.
It too.
I sure have. I said yesterday morning I woke up full of piss and vinegar, but I got over it real fast. And then when I went to bed, I was full of piss. Not really full of piss and vinegar, just so disappointed in the actions of somebody that's supposed to be a leader. But I'm going to keep that private because it is an internal dispute.
Absolutely.
That's what real Republicans do.
Oh, Lord. The Reagan rule. If you can't say something nice
That's
about another
exactly
Republican, then shut the hell up. So, so let's see. What have I done today? Let's see. Well, I went from having my parents upset at me to having them happy now again. It just took a visit. That's it.
Yes, parents
just
like
go
to
see
be
them.
visited.
I know they do. I know, but I have pictures of them. I know what they look like.
That's
not
the same.
I know, but they want me present, so they got me on task.
Okay.
Everybody got what they wanted today. So, Ted, what you been up to? Last week or two.
I've been dealing with a big response IT-wise for the whole state. It's been taking up a lot of my time, but I think I'm getting close to the finish line, hopefully soon, very soon.
So, let's just dive right in. I did not pull a bio from you or anything because I kind of just wanted to have you on the show because your opponents have been. Tell me about...
I'll tell you about Peter Melkoumov.
Okay.
Oh, here we go.
He is a Fayetteville small business owner and a 2025 candidate for City Council District 1. He owns Silver Knights PCs, which is a local IT PC repair business. It's located on Bragg Boulevard. He was born in Los Angeles, but we won't hold that against him. Raised in Las Vegas, and he's made Fayetteville home and brings tech and small business lens to city issues.
That's a really good summary. Thank you so much.
You are very welcome.
I think he's going to owe you a nickel or two for writing his campaign intro. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Hey,
so,
I do that for a living, so holy smokeroni.
Yeah, join us at the Candidates Resource Center anytime.
Hello.
Uh-oh.
That's not me.
That's me. Okay, my bad. That's what happens when you have your voice over IP piped into your
Laptop.
Yeah,
Yep.
I should probably put that on Do Not Disturb, huh?
Oh, no
So, sorry, I'm putting it on Do Not Disturb now.
Okay, so let's hear about your campaign, Ted.
So, obviously new to politics, so this whole experience has been eye-opening for me. Meeting a lot of people. One of the things that everyone always wants to know is what is your platform. And early on, I felt like I was talking out the side of my fourth point of contact if I didn't do my research first. So I spent a lot of time just talking to groups to understand what their issues are, understanding what people think the problems are at the lowest level and working my way up.
What groups?
So I met with different groups of Republicans, some of which have broken off from the current Republican race. I've met with different groups of Democrats and quite a few different church groups. It's amazing how much community we have in our neighborhoods that are built on the backs of churches. Those are typically where people go to meet up and have discussions in their communities. And then obviously we also have like the community awareness meetings and things like that. So I've been trying to map out what is the problems, right? Understanding how to tackle those problems collectively. A lot of folks are kind of focused on crime right now, which is a big concern. The statistics are, strangely enough, not agreeing with the sentiment. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of that has to do with reporting and the way it's done.
Let me interrupt you. So how are they not agreeing? Is it worse, better? What's your...
So one example of a statistic I was given by the chief of police right now is that, and this was during our candidate academy, I think you were there for that as well, was that in 2014 we were looking at something like 20,000 plus crimes that occurred in that calendar year. And then looking at last year, we were only at like 14,000, which would show a improvement, right, on a surface level. But the sentiment is the opposite, that now it's more lawless and not less. That in 2014 things were pretty stable comparatively. I think...
if it's getting better, why are we hearing all these candidates say, the sky is falling, we're so lawless, we're like the Wild West?
They change reporting, the way they report crimes, that's why. Because more crimes are happening, but they're not necessarily reporting them as the same. And to be quite honest, if you call the police, there have been times that the police just don't show up. We'll come down and fill out a report.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I've encountered that myself as a business owner. I've encountered that myself as an individual. There's oftentimes parts of our police force that, just is inundated with other stuff that is higher priority. And I understand.
And they're
that.
shorthanded.
They are, absolutely. There's this permanent vacancy situation that needs to be addressed. There's a cultural issue, I think, in the recruitment process to the police department that kind of creates waves for people that have already done law enforcement in other areas and jurisdictions. A lot of ex-military folks that want to go to the Fayetteville Police Department feel like it's Groundhog Day because they're starting over like it's basic training and you're a private. I think that makes sense for people who are new to law enforcement, new to structured organizations. We'll say, for the sake of argument, paramilitary in structure, right? Not necessarily in the way that they talk to citizens or something like that. And you have to have a pipeline for people that have had prior experience. Otherwise, you're going to lose candidates that are high quality, already trained, and need minor retraining to be able to do the job.
So maybe more work on what they would call lateral entry, I guess, if they already have the skills over there.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that the big thing about Army recruiting is that, hey, we're going to equip you and we'll give you skills to take back to the real world?
Yeah.
Isn't that wasn't a pitch?
And being a military town, you would think we would allow for that.
Yeah.
We have all of these people.
How relevant is being a military police officer to being an actual police officer out here in the wild?
As someone who dated an MP at one point and have several friends that are...
Well, you dated an MP?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
She pulled me over one day.
Attaboy. I told you that line worked. I kept getting pulled over by that one cop, and I said, look, if you want my number, just ask. Then she handed me a ticket.
I got a ticket, but later on I met up with her. But that was a long time ago. That was almost
I think that speaks to your, what is that, his political peacekeeping ability?
Maybe.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Ted.
Or his good looks, one or the other.
Or his ability to go into hairy situations.
Or age cap caught up to me.
All right, so
catches up to
the
all of
relevance of an MP, because I've heard other
Well,
candidates.
not necessarily MP, though. I mean, you could come from infantry
Yeah.
and not need all of that basic training stuff. You just make you
Sure,
learn.
there's an argument to that. I think the bigger thing is that MPs have to deal with folks that are not citizens as part of their duties, especially if they're in a deployed environment. So, and one thing that never really made sense to me is that we have these like astronomical rules of engagement that we have to have for foreign nationals, right? But then organizationally, we don't enforce that in our police force with our own citizens. And that is somewhere I disagree with a lot of conservatives in that regard, because the idea that our citizens have less rules before they get shot at compared to someone who is literally pointing an AK at you in a foreign country that you're at war with seems silly to me, right? I feel like we should have similar rules in those places, right? There should be escalations of force, things like that make sense based on the perceived threat. Now, to say that anyone would want to do that job knowing that they have their life threatened on a regular basis is an argument that people make, and that's a good argument, right? You're a police officer. You want to come home at the end of the night. You don't want to deal with, getting killed and things like that. The same applies to soldiers, right? Soldiers sign up for that. They don't like that BS either, for that matter, right? But we have these rules in place so that way there isn't collateral damage and people dying in situations where it doesn't make sense for death to be because death is final. There is no going back.
Yeah, I can't give a refund on that one.
There's no response.
There's no refund.
No, it's a one-way ticket.
One way. So basically, my question was more
how well it translates.
Yeah, because just because you've done one job doesn't mean you're a shoe-in for another one.
Absolutely, and I don't disagree with that notion. I mean, I did IT in the military. IT in the military is drastically different than it is in the private sector. At the same time, there's a lot of skills that translate, certifications, things like TASER, MACE certifications, how to deal with prisoners, right? Those types of applications already exist. Firearms training. There's a lot of training that already exists that you can condense down for folks that already have that experience. Okay.
So what are you've got a lot going on. I mean, you're a vet, you have your business, and you've been doing that for how many years now?
6 years.
Okay.
So
6 years.
6 years as a business entity.
On your own.
Yeah, and then I did it out of the garage until the wife gave me the ultimatum, said, move out or we're getting a divorce with all your computer stuff.
Hewlett-Packard started in a garage, and I think McDonald's started with one place. So
Didn't
you keep
Apple
it up.
start in the garage, too?
Apple sure did, too.
Yep.
Yes, they did. So with all that, and you mentioned being married, why city council? Like, what were the things that you're running on, and what are the things you think you can help, and what really triggered you to say, okay, now I can give it a shot?
I got to a point of seeing some of the social issues that we have in town boiling over.
Be specific with social issues.
Sure. So I'm on Bragg Boulevard with my business, right? I'm there day in, day out. Actually, one of the reasons I was unfamiliar with traffic at this time of day is because I'm usually getting out of work at 7 or 8 o'clock at night.
Sure.
And I'm doing that 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. The reality of the boulevard at that time of night is there is a lot of folks that are homeless, mentally ill, drug addicts, and you see it every single day driving home. I got to a point with it where I said, there's got to be something we can do about this situation, because I know as a business person that I would not want to continue to invest in an area that has this level of vagrancy, right, of lawlessness. There is folks that don't have the opportunity to be able to reset their lives. I've interacted with a lot of folks in the general public that are near my business in that regard, and had discussions with them about like how they got there. Right. Sometimes taking that time out of your day just to understand people helps you a lot in terms of understanding what the problems are.
What gives you any insight into the homeless population?
Well, thanks for the layup, but at the same time, I had personal experience with it. I spent some time homeless, and I learned that when you're in that resource-limited environment, you are desperate to be able to get any kind of resources in to be able to sustain yourself. It's a matter of survival. A lot of people ask me why I'm so skilled in certain things. It was survive or die. There was no other choice, right? So the folks that make it out of that poverty-stricken environment oftentimes are the ones that are willing to do anything to survive, right? And then when you get past that, you look at it and go, why is that the system? Why is that
Okay.
the way that we address the
So
problem?
what have you done as a local business owner to maybe help somebody that is homeless with a hand up so that they can overcome their obstacles right now?
So over the years, I've done quite a few different things. But I would say the biggest thing is not criminalizing homelessness, right? There is a perception that someone who is, loitering outside your business, maybe hasn't had a bath in a month and is asking for a handout is a nuisance. And that is understandable from the business owner's perspective, right? The customer doesn't want to come and interact in a place where that is the case, right? It makes it unsavory. People don't like looking at homeless people because it makes them feel uncomfortable, which is a valid reaction because you want to help, but you understand that oftentimes helping can enable people, right? And the way that you can address it in a meaningful way is by raising up those people through things like, hey, what resource are you lacking right now to be able to do something about your situation? Now, for folks that are schizophrenics, right, I can't provide a medication, right? I'm not a doctor. That is the responsibility of our government to provide that safety for our citizenry. At the same time, that person is a net negative on our society. Constantly. They're a drain on resources, businesses don't want to develop, that it makes it harder to have good paying jobs. It all feeds into the economic cycle, right? So the way that you have to address it is at that level first, right? When you already have a population of folks that need help, you need to enable them through programs that actually impact their life long term. Not just a handout today that feeds them, right? Hey, residency programs, 6-month reset, right? Women with children. Right, those kids are going to grow up in that same poverty unless we build a system where those folks have the opportunity to reset that. Right, and some people are mentally insane and they need to be institutionalized. That's a fact.
Laura asked, what you as a business person has done. It doesn't have to be through your business. Have you done anything local with churches or organizations?
Organizations,
just what does that look like? Because I know you have the experience.
Yeah, so I try to keep it at the lowest level. Like, so 2 weeks ago, for example, I'll tell this story. 2 weeks ago, there was a gentleman sitting outside my store asking for a handout. I spoke with him for 5 minutes, realized that he was going through a messy divorce. He'd only been homeless for 7 days, right? He's like, listen, I'm sorry, I smell bad, I haven't had a bath. My ex-wife kicked me out. She cut off my credit card. I don't have a way to get money. He's like, I don't even have a car right now because she took the keys. I'm out on the street, and tomorrow morning I have court.
Oops.
Okay.
So I said, well, you're not going to look very presentable in front of a judge right now, right? So he got in the car with me. We went down to the Economy Inn over by just past downtown, coming from Bragg Boulevard. It's that I think it's the 301 that passes through there, and I got him a night for $60. That was a personal thing I did because I'm like, hey, this person right now needs a place to wash themselves, reset for the day, and have their day in court tomorrow, so they can do something about their lives. Now, not every individual is in the position to do something about their life in that moment, right? But you have to be able to identify it and then quickly impact it in the moment. I had a gentleman break into the shed behind my business where we stack like excess equipment, and then also the lawyer next door does all their paperwork, right? Like the stuff that's for archive reasons, right? It's usually locked and boarded up. It was the middle of winter a couple winters ago, and this gentleman broke in to literally keep himself from freezing to death because we were getting to the point where we were below freezing, right? He didn't steal anything. Nothing. The door was broken. I repaired the door. That was the end of it. We didn't need to continue doing anything else. The biggest thing is not punishing somebody because they're just trying to survive.
Well, now, homelessness is actually a county issue. So how does running for city council help you address that issue?
While it is a county problem, it's, in my opinion, homelessness is most densely populated is in city areas, urban environments. It's an urban problem because that's where there's a large contingent of people. So the likelihood of being able to get access to resources is higher in an urban environment than a rural environment, right? I knew that from my personal experience. I knew that the areas around tourist areas, just outside of them, were my opportunity to be able to try to get some sort of resource, whether it's food, money, whatever, right? It's the same thing for folks that are scraping by. Right, some of them are living out of their cars. There's a scrapper that comes through every month trying to scrap any metal that he can out of our dumpster. And my condition's really easy with him. I'm like, hey, you can take all the metal you want. Just put all the trash back in. Right? It's little stuff. Letting your neighbor do the things that they need to get by, and then also maybe getting them in contact with folks. That same gentleman broke down leaving my business. I called Kane's Towing. Jeff Kane. He's a local business owner. He owns a towing company. I said, Jeff, I got a gentleman here who needs to jump. I don't have anything to jump him with. He drove over, put a tank of gas in his car, and jumped him. Didn't even bill me for it. Mm-hmm. Right? That's the thing. Is like that is just helping your fellow man when they need help. That is a critical part of it. And those are ways that you can impact on an individual level that don't take a lot. Mm-hmm. You're talking about $40, $60. I think all of us can be okay without that at this level.
Well, and so when it comes to business, I'll go and help feed the homeless, stuff like that. But when it comes to around my four walls, it's like, look, that's like a church to me. You can't panhandle there. You can't do these things because then I lose the ability to have the time and flexibility and the earnings to go out and help otherwise. So it's a little bit different around the business than it is just out in the wild. Yeah. And I think most people would be intimidated to take the step that you did with $60 and let the guy go wash up. But hey, vote for Ted. He'll get you to court on time.
There you go.
I think, what do you think City Council can do? Because we have the Day Resource Center. We have the county's upcoming
I think it was a great step.
Homeless shelter. What else should the city do? I mean, I know health and safety belongs to DSS and the county, but what else?
So there is a
and
current
where does
push,
the money come from?
And that is a big part of it, right? But I think there's a big push right now at the federal level to address mental health. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think all of us can agree that the tragedy of what mental health institutions were until Reagan shut them down is correct, right? There was a lot of human rights abuses. Funding was poorly managed. The staff were of low quality oftentimes because nobody wanted to do the job, right? Because the pay wasn't competitive to the rest of the market. I think there is a argument to make that say that the Dorothea Dixes of the world were not great institutions for our society. At the same time, I think we all agree that just like we have a prison system that we pay for, right, we also need to have that same system in place for mental health because there is a portion of the population that cannot, at some point, keep a regular job exist in our society normally because they have some sort of underlying mental health issue that is not treatable in 6 to 9 months, right? And we should use the lessons of the past to learn from that and do something about it now in a meaningful way, right? Because the cost of that individual being a net negative on society is much higher than the small sum that you have to pay to house them and reset them, right? Or folks that don't have the capacity to do that long term, a small percentage of the population, have a place to go. So that way your business isn't overran with folks in that scenario, right?
So after social topics that you saw as a compelling reason to run, what was the next couple of things? Like, so when I run, I have my top 3. Like, so yours is social. What's the next one?
So custodianship of the future. I think it's really important that competent people are in government. I think that oftentimes people that are in government are folks that won by popularity, which is, I understand it's a popularity contest. We would hope that the people that win are the most competent individuals, but that's not oftentimes what happens.
Well, it's certainly not a beauty contest.
But at the same time, I felt like we had to have good folks representing our district. And at the time that I put my hat in the race, I was uncertain if that was happening. Right, Kathy has been in charge of our district for a very long time, and she's done, in my opinion, a pretty good job overall. I think everyone can say that District 1 is pretty well managed for the most part. There's obviously issues.
Out of all the districts, I would say District 1 and 5 and 6 really are the most untroublesome districts, I would say. So,
at the same time, geography, culture, the way that the buildings were built, all that stuff, can influence all that, right? Sometimes you just start with a better set of bones because you don't have the baggage of the existing infrastructure, right? Some areas have geographic problems, like downtown with flooding, right? That is a thing that is very hard to avoid because it was the way it was built.
Sure.
At the same time, I was watching working people that I knew stressing about rent in a way that was very, very real, right? They watch their rent in 5 years triple. Right? Property taxes all of a sudden go up, landlords raising rent again, right, because of the property tax increase. And then we as a society have to recognize that our pay rates have not scaled, right? And this isn't a minimum skills, minimum pay conversation, right? I don't think anybody is scraping by on $7.25 anymore, right? It's just that property values are developing at a much faster rate. The new development is happening, and part of it is our inflationary rates, right? There's a lot of socioeconomic factors that go into why we are in the housing situation that we're in.
Okay.
But I felt like the city council should encourage people to buy homes and to stay taxpayers in this area, right? And the way that you encourage that is by giving people the opportunity to buy their home. There is several different types of things in place where, in different areas, where you have the first right of refusal for purchasing a home. Okay, the idea is simple. You're a landlord, you own a house, right, and you want to sell said house. The tenant has the first option to buy at the price that listed, right, which is a inversion of how it normally works. Right now, tenants can oftentimes have their house listed up and they don't even know it happened, right? There's no warning. And then some large conglomerate can come in and buy the property. That large conglomerate doesn't care about sending their kids here to school. That large conglomerate doesn't care about the long-term success of the area. They just care about their property value increasing or being able to make money on it. That's it, right? There is no other incentive for them. They don't live here, right? And the city should encourage people to live here, so that way they become parts of the society here permanently.
So how would we encourage people to want to live here?
Well, it's twofold, right? The first is you have to have the option to buy your home, right? And that should be the first option. The person currently living it should be the first option for buying, right? That makes just altruistic sense, right? Like when you're looking at it, right? And then the flip side of that is you have to make the area be a place that people would want to move to. I made a joke, I think, or not a joke, a statement to you, and I think you laughed at me when we were at the conference this last week, where I said, you want to get to the point where people in Cary are like, you know what, I think I want to move to Fayetteville because there's good opportunities there, and you laughed at me, right?
I'm laughing again because it's comical, but you've got a point.
That's the vision.
So, look, you're talking about first right of refusal. You're talking about a higher level of real estate than I think most people making that first home purchase. It's the largest decision of their life. I don't think that they're going to be savvy enough. So how would you encourage landlords to offer that first right? Because that's something I'd have to put into their lease as a landlord.
Sure. So the benefit for the landlord is twofold. Number one, the sale of the property is less arm twisty. What I mean by that is oftentimes large conglomerates can get you into a deal, and then the property the property owner gets put into a position where they have to kind of accept because they have to sell at a certain point. And then there'll be things that come up later that'll be like, oh, well, we're going to reduce the value because this, and this. Versus the person living there already knows the issues. They know what they're getting themselves into, right? As the tenant that's currently living there, they know what the plumbing situation is. They know what the roof is like, right? They
It might encourage tenants to actually treat their property a little better.
If they have the potential to buy.
If they had the opportunity to buy. So the city does have first-time home buyer programs, but you have to follow along the city's program. You go to a class, and then I know there's certain things that will trigger a forgiveness up to $20,000.
Wow.
And if you're a first responder, they increase it to $30,000 in the city limit. So we do have some programs, but I don't know if we can afford to go much more widespread than what we've already done with what they have, because it started with ARPA funding, and now we found a way in our city budget to replenish some of those funds because it is important, but I don't think I should be helping somebody else buy a house with my tax dollar.
I was just going to say, is it loan forgiveness, or is it the taxpayers are actually paying
subsidizing people buying
exactly
homes?
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think that's the solution, right? The anytime you bring up a social welfare program like that, right, it immediately people jump to the big C word, right, or socialism, right? And I think that you have to present people the opportunity, right? My brother-in-law is a good example of this. Military guy, he was getting out of the Army. He had 2 more months before he was looking at potentially moving or buying a property. Right, landlord sold his property out from under him 1 month or 2 months out before he got to that stage, right? And he was looking at buying a property here, had the resources to do so, but he was so disgruntled with the process of getting kicked out of his own house that he no longer wanted to live here, right? And I think that there is a conversation to be had about the benefits of having a social subsidy right, for first-time home buyers. I think there's definitely benefits long-term for the area, and there needs to be limits in place for it. But I think that the thing that I'm talking about doesn't cost anything. In fact, it kind of improves relations between the tenant and the landlord, and it makes the landlord less beholden to the big conglomerate trying to buy the property. Right, there is entire swaths of residential areas in Fayetteville that have been bought up and converted into Airbnbs.
Yeah,
and there is a economic advantage to having Airbnbs, but there's also the lack of the taxpayer living there that's contributing into the long-term budget of the city. Right, property taxes are only a portion of it. You still have sales tax that individual is going to contribute to. They're going to encourage their participation in use of the social services and, more importantly, the school districts, right? Versus someone who is transitory may not have those same
So
anchors.
even though they're paying taxes, the impact overall is going to be less because those people, but the tenants are going to be spending money.
I was going to say, if there's somebody
Yeah.
living in the house, whether it's
Yeah.
for a week, a month, or a year, the tenants are still going to be using the taxes.
And I mean, look, if some
But
conglomerate...
their personal taxes are not. Their military personal taxes are taxed in whatever state they are, right? So their state taxes don't contribute at all to the area, and same thing with the federal taxes. It goes through whatever state they're in. And let's be honest, a huge portion of the town is military, right? You want to encourage those people to stay here with their skill sets. That's the way you do it.
Well, that'll be done in the legislation when we do no more income tax for. But
That'd be nice for North Carolina, yeah. So what's next on the platform? And next and final, I guess.
Yeah. So obviously the social issues was one of the biggest ones. The secondary was the housing situation, and the third, it kind of bleeds back into my original point, is competency in government. There is, as far as I understand it, there hasn't been anybody in city council that's ever come from a technical background. In other areas, there are oftentimes aldermen that are advisors to the city council. They're usually the older folks that were on council that have now retired, but they're there for advisement. Same thing with technical experts. We don't have that same structure in Fayetteville, but I feel like a good city council is one that is well-rounded. And I wanted to bring that other perspective because people in my position usually don't have the social skills to be able to do any of this.
What kind of people? Veterans?
No. Computer
Nerds.
people.
Nerds.
We don't like to lead platoons.
I'm a political nerd.
I was trying to get you
so
to
I
extrapolate that
understand.
on your own. But so basically, this is Revenge of the Nerds. You just want to be up on the stage.
No, not at all.
Okay.
No, I actually could care less about that. I have no long-term desire to stay in politics or anything like that. I just want to bring a different perspective, one that can actually understand some of the things that our city council votes on in terms of budgets. Right, we have an IT department. When you have folks that are technical, it's very easy to get muddled in the technical part of it, and not understand what's actually important, what's not.
So let me ask you about city IT department.
I was just going to say.
So, I was not a fan of them bringing in somebody and giving them the salary they did, and I feel like we shouldn't have our own IT department, that it should be outsourced. What's your pros and cons for one or two?
Okay. That you're talking about government IT in general, which is an institutional problem at the state level.
Okay.
We
had Auditor Bullock on here last night. The one thing I took from him was that they were able to pass legislation that excluded him from
That's
having
correct.
to use the State Department of IT
Correct.
because they suck.
Yes.
And he wanted to buy new stuff, basically, is what he wanted.
He didn't want to. We needed it.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
piecing together things that are so outdated.
The
you
IBM
can't even.
mainframe,
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah,
You can't
yeah.
even buy parts for it anymore.
Yeah.
Correct. And when they break, there is no fixing it. You got to understand, IBM mainframes existed before we had security.
Mm-hmm.
Antivirus wasn't invented until the mid-'90s when McAfee rolled out with it, right? Like, that was early antivirus. So
When he started writing viruses, then he had to have the antidote somehow.
right.
Yeah.
Sure, but the thing is we're talking about critical infrastructure that
Sure.
runs our state.
So
And the
should
new
the city
stuff
have its own
doesn't talk-
IT department? I
So
mean,
The new stuff doesn't talk to the old stuff.
Right.
I don't think we should have an IT department.
I think you should have an IT department, but I think the way it should work is the policy is dictated by the state to the county and the county to the city. There is a very nice structure that the federal government created when they said, hey, this is NIST, which is a compliancy rating for those that don't know, that says this is a security compliancy rating. Right, this is the framework that you want to use, right? And when you can't meet that requirement, you can't connect to the Fed. There is no Fed ramp if you do not have the compliancy piece met. So at the same time, you can have that same type of structure in the state, where the state says, hey, you can't have data outside of the country, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a big one. When you're collecting data on U.S. citizens, you don't want the Chinese processing it,
right,
in their servers, right? So there is, but one thing is passing legislation, another is actually doing and enforcing it, right? And that means every part of IT, from the state government level down, needs to be restructured. And I think fundamentally, when that happens, that is when I think that the city and county level will be fixed, because what ends up happening is every municipality, every city just does whatever they think is best in that moment.
Well,
and
because
whoever's in charge.
Wouldn't that the state IT? So if we start doing city, then isn't the city still just doing whatever they want?
They are.
So they're upgrading, but they can't.
Hope Mills and
whoever.
Spring Lake both use third-party IT people.
Right.
Yes, and there is a benefit to having outsourced IT for certain things. But you should never, in any large organization, lose that institutional knowledge, because you can lose a contractor. Now what happens when you don't have the passwords that they had? Right now, suddenly your entire network is held hostage by a
somebody
company.
forgot to do continuity of government study, I guess. You know,
But,
come on, the password's just written on the Post-it note on the front of their computer. Tell me how many
hire
times
a
you found that
consultant.
kind of stuff. Seriously. How many times have you
I'm gonna
walked
plead
in
the
and it's
fifth on
like
that.
password 123 or whatever?
Well, and here's the thing is
1, 2, 3, $4 Thank
My
you.
bad.
everybody agrees on the keys, right, when we're talking about these.
Yeah.
But for some reason, when it comes to digital passwords, we don't think about it the same way.
Yeah, no.
We also don't look at it, and a lot of it has to do with the folks that are in government, right? Folks that grew up the pre-digital era, that didn't understand the tech. Now, I've also encountered some folks that are older that were surprisingly versed in it, that were there when COBOL was being built, when the early databases of the 80s and 90s were being built, and they kept up, right? But the vast majority of folks that are in the older generation that are in government and running it don't understand it clearly. And that takes people in government, their peers, being there to help teach them that.
Sure.
And get them to the same level, right? And I think the only way that's going to happen is not when the IT department shows up and talks to the city council, but when one of the city council members is a peer talking about it. Because now suddenly you go, hey, I need to catch up on this. It's a different framing of the problem.
Okay. So some of your subject matter expertise, maybe, where in the city do you think we need your help the most?
There is
that you've seen
a lot of problems. Admittedly, I don't think I'm the solution for a lot of them.
Okay.
I don't claim to be that. I think that's ridiculous. I think that's just, it's too much, right? There's too many different things that I'm not an expert in. I don't want to fall into what I call the smart person fallacy.
I think that's the first time I've ever heard a politician say that they don't have all the answers.
That's
Holy
true.
smokeroni.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well,
yeah.
There's what I call the smart person fallacy. You think you're good at one thing, so you think you're good at everything. No. Right? I might be good at computers, so then I can be okay at working on my car, right? But that doesn't mean now suddenly I know what 1,000th of an inch I need to bore out my cylinder walls in, right? I take that to the machine shop.
Are
right?
you speaking English?
Yes, I am. but my point is the same, that you have people that are very good at something in council, and then that automatically there's a presumption that happens that they're good at everything, and that's not the case. There is times to defer to experts. There is times to work together collectively, and part of that is bringing a collaborative nature to the problem off the rip. Right? If the entire problem from the very beginning is framed as, well, these people want this and these people want that, then suddenly you can't even come to the table to have a real discussion about anything. Right? And I think that's the thing I bring the most to the city council, is as much as I'm a technical expert and all those other things, I'm diplomatic, and I'm willing to understand what the problem is and work with people to actually solve the problem.
So when you notice that you have these deficiencies in whatever area they are, how are you going to fill those deficiencies? Because what I always say is, when I ran, I wanted to create a council of people, from Republicans, Democrats, independents, IT people, real estate agents, whatever, so to have a well-rounded, because you're looking at what's best for your interest in your district. But how do you understand other people's districts and what they're thinking and feeling?
I got presented that same question during the debate, and I think something happened just now.
You got it.
Okay, I think I had this this initial response where I said it's very rarely that it's that black and white. When you are presented a problem in another district, like say let's talk about flooding, right? That's an example. Downtown district, from my understanding, gets hit with some of the worst flooding when we get rains.
They do.
Right? it's not fair to sit there and blame their geography for their district. At the same time, if it's causing major problems downtown and we have to spend money on it, the negative effects of not doing that will bleed into your district. The example I use is if you have a neighbor whose grass isn't cut and it grows to waist high, and you have snakes in there, they're going to come crawling into your yard too.
No, they know to stay in their own yard.
There's a fence there with chain link. Yeah,
yeah, and snakes will go right through it. So and rats and any other kind of pests, right? So
we actually had that at my neighbor's house. They believed in nature, and we live on a lake, and they decided to let their grass grow.
Let it be all natural.
And a snake chased their children through the yard, and they're like, "Why?" And I'm like,
snakes live in high grass.
That's right. The jungle over there. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the same idea, right? Now, I'm not saying that suddenly you have to jump at every single district's problems all the time, and you're going to have priorities that you need to prioritize for your own district. But generally, in a city function, when one area rises, then the other tends to do better too. They have more income to spend in your district, right? If people are suffering in that area economically or socially, they're not going to be able to contribute as much to the solutions and the problems, right? So I think having the mentality of, hey, what's fixing the biggest problems first for everybody, that rises all the ships, because then you now suddenly have more resources to deal with the smaller problems.
Okay. So we're going to wrap up here. In your quest of campaign,
sure.
I hate to say the campaign trail. That sounds so much bigger than it.
No, it really is.
It's like a campaign path here in Fayetteville.
It was a privilege to run, and I learned a lot. So what are the one or two, maybe three things you've learned quickly that you didn't know before you started this process?
Number one, there is a lot of history. Everybody seems to know each other in ways politically that I didn't understand just being in the business world or even in the veteran community, right? There's a lot of shared history between different folks, different organizations, back and forth, all this other stuff. And that took me kind of at surprise. I didn't realize that there was that much of it ingrained in the area.
Interconnectedness of the community.
Yeah, and both in commonality and adversity, right?
Yeah.
It takes you by surprise that there's so much, right? Because as somebody who didn't really engage in politics until very recently, I didn't really understand the depth of it. Like, you could spend your whole time just understanding the depth of what it is, trying to map it out.
Is that the first time we've had a politician admit that there was things he didn't know?
Yeah.
Okay, next. Go ahead.
The second thing was just what people thought was important, right? What I was expecting to hear about was stormwater, how to fix schools. Come to find out, in city council, we don't impact schools. That's a county function.
Thank you.
The education of what actually city council does was such a critical piece of it, to be able to look at what problems you can actually realistically address, right? And I think there's a lot of resources that go underutilized. Recently, like literally this last week, I learned about a class that I think the county commissioner's office holds, where it's Citizen Academy, where you learn what all the different services of the counties are, who all the individuals are, how it functions, everything like that. The access to information is oftentimes hidden behind layers of bureaucracy. And so sometimes trying to understand what you even need to do to be an effective citizen in your society is hard. And so now I'm learning what those things are, and I think that was a really big eye-opener for me.
So, okay, I'm one of your... we're going to role play here for a minute.
Sure.
I'm one of your constituents, and I come to you, and I say, hey, I really want to make a difference in the schools. What are you going to do about our schools? How do you respond to that? That's not under my purview. No, thank you. None of my business.
So,
not my wheelhouse. Not my monkey.
Right.
So I feel like that's the wrong answer to a constituent, right? Constituents bringing up a problem to you, right? I feel like our civic duty in the position of a city council member, something like that, any kind of government position that's elected, is that you help present possible solutions to people's problems, right? If you go, hey, what you're talking about, yes, I agree with you. It's really important, right? At the same time, I'm not the one who impacts it, but I can get you in touch with the people who are, and I'll go with you if you want, right? Because I agree that our school system is inadequate right now. I feel that way, and I have a young child that's about to join
You also
us.
have black and white. I think it was in City View last week about the schools report card. Now we have a new superintendent, Cumberland County Schools. I would like to see him on the crucible of the cabinet, but everybody celebrated the former superintendent
And then
for I don't know what reason.
our school, our test results came out, and what were we
half of our
celebrating?
schools are below.
Yes.
50%.
Here's a better statistic. When was the last time we built a school?
Well, we tried to build a
high school.
E. Smith to partner with Fort Bragg to give us Stryker Golf Course, but everybody lost their mind about the historical significance of the four walls of the E. Smith.
They could have made that a beautiful charter school.
Yeah.
Or a
What about the old
technical
Rockefeller
schools?
estate that's abandoned and dilapidated?
What about the fact that it's for the future generation of this community and not for their nostalgic purpose?
Sure.
That was
the Fort Bragg was willing to.
Well, they're still
invest.
willing to, and that's
Okay.
still, it's not off the table yet. And Cumberland County did allocate enough money in the budget this coming year to build, I believe, 2 schools. So the school system has the money. Now they need to get through the nostalgia, and they need to make some action.
I feel like when we're talking about the base, that throws a whole another can of worms into there, because the base is a positive and a negative force at the same time, right? You have a huge population of folks coming through that have a higher expendable income than your average citizen, which obviously helps inflate the economy and boost the local population spending, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there's a demand for services that come with that, right? And those services have to be paid for somehow. And sometimes the economic boon isn't necessarily offsetting it enough, right? Like you said, you have schools that need to be paid for. There is a longer argument that needs to be had about how military bases integrate into areas to be successful. Because what we don't want is what happened in Oakland, when military base closes down and suddenly that economic drive disappears, and then people fall into poverty suddenly. Right? Not that I ever think that Fort Bragg would close. It's much too big of a base, I think, in terms of like what it does. But there is a argument about what is the custodianship and duty of the base to participate in its local economy and all that stuff. And I know that's a lot of red tape in there.
Well, we finally have a county commission, and I know a chamber of commerce that's working very closely with the garrison commander and stuff like that. We've had more exposure to them in the last couple of years than we have in the last 10.
Yes.
So hopefully we will see more collaboration and all. Laura, you want to... So just off the cuff here, last thing I'm going to ask you...
Curfew.
Yeah, go ahead. You can... Do you want to talk about the curfew?
Curfew?
Yeah, okay. Where do you stand
we've
on the...
asked everybody
okay,
else.
so curfew and shot spotter, up, down.
Just a yes or no? I hate that it's a yes or no.
I know.
Why
It sucks,
can't I just have a
doesn't it?
conversation about it?
Because
we're
I
running out of time.
got a hot date that looks better than you, so I got to
Lord
go.
have mercy. Okay, curfew.
Okay, would you have voted for ShotSpotter to renew? Yes or no?
Not in its current configuration.
Not in its current configuration. Cool. Next.
Curfew. Would you would you have voted yes or no on the curfew?
I think the curfew is not effective, so no.
And what about 7-Eleven?
Which one?
Do you not like Slurpees on Rose Hill?
Listen, I like Slurpees.
Okay.
I also get why someone wouldn't want gas tanks 10 feet behind their fence. Think about your yard and having that 10 feet
Not
away.
in my backyard.
I'm just saying. I get why the population doesn't.
Well, and I know the ShotSpotter thing is a very complicated question.
I'm looking
I know.
forward to actually having a conversation.
So
about it.
you're going to come. Look, this is a
We'll
fun
follow you
conversation.
around in
We
all
will
these
follow you.
forums.
We're definitely. Believe me, I got it all on my calendar. These forums. So, if somebody wants to find out more about you, where can they go?
So my personal Facebook and Instagram is obviously already live. One of the things that I've been doing while going through all this is making sure that I have good answers for questions. So I've spent a lot of time building my website the way I wanted it. I'm planning on publishing after the primary because I think at this stage in the race, it makes sense for me to just understand what I have. But long term, I will have a website once the primary is concluded and up and live, and that will give you the answers to the questions.
Excellent.
Okay, so what is your Facebook?
Oh, it's Ted Melkoumov on Facebook. It is exactly how my name is spelled. Feel free to reach out, and if you have any questions or want to talk to me, I'm available on there.
All right. Well, with that, thank you, Mr. Melkoumov, for coming on this evening. It was a
Thank you for
pleasure.
Yep.
Mrs. Laura Musler, thank you again for being my loyal co-host. I appreciate you. To our audience, I hope you'll do us a favor this week and take time to visit one of our commercial sponsors. Make sure you tell them you heard their message right here on the Carolina Cabinet. If you do somehow miss an episode of our top-rated show, you can find us on your favorite podcast broadcaster, Apple, Spotify, Google. Come on, guys. It's 2025. Figure it out. Look for us online at thecarolinacabinet.com. You can find all of our videos and links. Thanks again for tuning in this morning. Until next time, we are the Carolina Cabinet.